What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. We are almost to the end of June, which, I mean, great. It's the slowest football month of the year, but we're just going into July, which might be the second slowest football month of the year, depending on your perspective, and I guess also depending on whether or not your team makes the playoffs. But we do have something pretty big to discuss here, and it's not a Seahawks thing, it's an NFL thing. And I want to spend a little bit of time on this. This came out yesterday afternoon, and it has some significant ramifications, even though initially it might kind of seem like something for us, the fans. But this is something that could absolutely affect the entire NFL, including the way teams are run going forward. And there are kind of two layers here. Well, I guess you could say three. The first layer, though, I'm not going to get too deep into. Short version is the NFL, and by the way, I don't know if the other SB Nation blogs are covering this case, this ultimate resolution. Not that we're done yet, but the movement of this case, as well as Acme Packing Company is. They're the Packers SB Nation blog, but they have two articles on their site about this, and it's really good. I haven't seen this kind of coverage from the other SB Nation blogs, so shout out to them. But I'm going to go ahead and have their take on it on screen here while we're briefly covering it, but you can read it hundreds of different places because this is a pretty big deal. Basically, the NFL has been ordered to pay out a large sum of money, at least $4 billion, could go up to, I think I read somewhere, $12 billion, because of the NFL Sunday Ticket lawsuit. So I'm not going to get too deep into the case here because it doesn't really matter from our perspective why this happened. But basically, there's been an argument in court that the NFL has violated antitrust laws with the NFL Sunday Ticket package due to the nature of out-of-market games being exclusively shown on Sunday tickets. So they've been ordered to pay a lot of money, like I said, at least $4 billion, and that number could go all the way up to $12 billion. So that's a lot. That's almost, if it gets up to 12 billion, that's more than half of the NFL's entire revenue last year. They have it in the article. It was 19 billion last year. So, first of all, I don't get NFL Sunday Ticket. I don't use NFL Sunday Ticket. I don't pay for it. So it doesn't personally affect me. I use NFL Red Zone, and then I watch the Seahawks games on local cable. And when there's a game on Amazon Prime, I watch it there. If there's a game on like ESPN Plus, I'll watch it there, and I'm good. I don't need NFL Sunday Ticket. I'm good with what Red Zone does when the Seahawks aren't on, personally. So it doesn't affect me in that sense, but I guess that if you are an NFL Sunday Ticket subscriber, you could be getting something out of this. So congratulations to anybody who does get something out of this. But yeah, that's not me because I don't use Sunday Ticket. But the effect is not just on the fans, on the viewers, on the people who get NFL Sunday Ticket. Them getting a little bit of a payout. I don't know exactly what it would be, but them getting some kind of a payout would certainly be relevant to them. But bigger than that, what are the effects that this is going to have on the salary cap? That's where this becomes really interesting to us as football fans. Because, again, the NFL's revenue per Sportico, in this article, you can see it right here, the NFL's revenue last season was $19 billion. Now, the $12 billion number or the $4 billion number, none of that is necessarily set in stone. The number could go down, I guess. I don't see how the number could go up because the plaintiffs were only asking for 21. I guess it could. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but point is, it is a significant chunk of the NFL's revenue. Right? Like, let's say it goes up a little bit to 20 billion this year. 12 billion represents more than half of that. And if that happens, because let's remember, it's been expected for the last couple years that the NFL salary cap was going to skyrocket at some point in the next couple of off seasons because NFL Sunday Ticket was going to be bought up by Amazon Prime for an obscene amount of money. Now, if it stands to reason, therefore, that the salary cap will be negatively infected by the NFL having to pay out this lawsuit, even if they negotiate it down or manage to appeal it down to a lesser amount. Maybe it'll be $8 billion or $7 billion or $6 billion. That's still a lot of money. So if we were sitting here saying that, well, Amazon Prime is going to give the NFL a ton of money by buying the Sunday Ticket, then it stands to reason that the NFL having to pay out all this money is going to have some kind of effect on the cap. And we're just talking short term here for now. Acme Packing Company has the second article talking about how the league's salary cap will probably regress now because of this. So that's no small thing. For the cap to go backwards, not just it's not going to grow like we thought, but it's actually going to go backwards. That's, to my knowledge, only happened once before. It happened because of COVID, which was completely understandable, right? A lot of fans couldn't even go to games. A lot of stadiums were empty that year. A lot of revenues were down for very obvious reasons. But you're taking a look at something like this article, which is filtering the story through the discussion of Jordan Love's eventual extension, which is obviously going to be a mega extension. They go into some of the exact details of the exact ramifications on the salary cap, but the point I'm trying to make here is that it seems very likely the cap is going to, at the minimum, regress in terms of growth, and it's probably also going to regress in terms of just total value, right? It makes sense to me, right? If they really lose half or more than half of their expected revenue by paying out this federal antitrust lawsuit, which seems like a reasonable expectation at this time. And maybe this won't happen right now because they take so long in the appeals court, but it's probably going to happen at some point. And when that does happen, how is the cap not going to get affected? And this article basically talks about how, well, there's going to be a smaller pie for a player like a Jordan Love to grab. There's going to be less money to pay a franchise quarterback like that. So a guy like a Jordan Love is probably going to have to read the room a little bit here. And this has nothing to do with us, but there could be other players that are affected, and I'd say negatively by this. So on that front, that's not so great for the Seahawks for very obvious reasons. It affects all teams, but the Seahawks are one team that if this happened, say, next year, would be very negatively affected because they are one of the teams that doesn't have a lot of cap space next year. In many ways, the Seattle Seahawks are depending on the NFL's cap going up quickly, more so than other teams because they've already committed so much money. Now, there are always things you can do. You can always make trades. You can also restructure. You can extend. You can do a bunch of different things. But as of right now, the Seahawks have a huge chunk of their 2025 salary cap already committed compared to other teams. So this would hurt them more than it would hurt some of these other teams that are going to be sitting on over $100 million in cap space in the coming couple years. And there are teams like that. There is always at least a few teams that have an obscene amount of cap space because they don't have anything big on their books. So that part is not so great. Now, there's another layer to this where there might be, down the line, this could result in the salary cap going away. And this is speculative. I personally don't think the NFL would ever allow it to come to this. I think the NFL really likes having a salary cap that is firm and hard, unlike these other leagues. I think that the NFL really likes the parity that they've created in their league to where a small market team has as good a chance as any other team, and that having the wealthiest owner doesn't really mean that much. But there is a scenario here where this results in the NFL dropping their salary cap. There's this one paragraph in this Acme Packing Company article talking about this. Recently, Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones stated that he would actually be against a salary cap if teams were allowed to sell their individual out-of-market rights, which is almost assured to be part of the fallout of the NFL Sunday Ticket package. So owners of richer teams, owners of teams that are in bigger markets, basically try to make up for the losses that they're taking in this lawsuit, because this affects all teams if the NFL's paying out over $10 billion, by blocking other clubs from revenue sharing. So this would create a circumstance where the big market teams and the teams with obscenely wealthy owners would be able to spend way more money than the small market teams that don't have the wealthiest owners. So obviously on the surface, that would work out pretty well for the Seahawks. They have one of the wealthiest owners out there with Jody. I know it's not, I know the whole thing is a little bit complicated. This was a lot simpler when it was Paul Allen, because it was actually his fortune. I know it's not really Jody's fortune, but in terms of what we as the fans would care about in this circumstance, we would be doing very well, because the only owners that are wealthier would be, I believe, the Panthers owner and the Broncos owner, the Penner Walton group. So to me, I can say that, hey, that would work out really well for us. We could outspend most teams out there. Some of these teams wouldn't have a chance. It was a little more decisive back, I want to say 6, 7, 8 years ago, when Paul Allen was lapping the field. Not the case anymore. But I don't know. I like what the NFL has created here with their salary cap, and I don't want to lose it. I just got to be honest. I don't. It would work very well for the Seahawks, I think. I think they would be one of the haves. They're in a relatively big market in Seattle. They have a rabid fan base. They have a fan base that is proven relatively willing to show up and spend a lot of money. So, to me, while I acknowledge all that, I can't say that I would really be excited for that. I like the fact that the NFL has so much parity. I like the fact that a team that is relatively small market, a team like the Indianapolis Colts, can become a powerhouse like the way they did with Peyton Manning. I like the fact that a team like the, I don't know, Tampa Bay Buccaneers can go win a Super Bowl. I like the fact that a team like the Kansas City Chiefs can go win a Super Bowl. I mean, what happens to the Packers in a scenario like this? Titletown, one of the most successful teams in NFL history. What happens to them? Meanwhile, I like that we live in a world where the Dallas Cowboys can go almost 30 years without making the NFC Championship game. I don't think that would be very realistic, because they could just outspend these other teams. Now, I understand that maybe the Dallas Cowboys would have problems no matter what, because they are actually a relatively cheapskate team. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the salary cap does create this circumstance where you make your own luck. You get to decide how your team performs based purely on how your decisions go. If you make the right decisions, things will work out. And if there's no salary cap, I think you do lose that a little bit. You could lose it a lot. And unlike a sport like baseball, where you do see small market, low revenue teams, low salary cap teams, find ways to build great teams like what we're seeing with the Orioles right now, feels like it's much easier to build a really strong farm system in baseball, because you have such a deep draft. Literally, I think it's still over 50 rounds, over a 50-round draft. And players are on your team for years before they even are considered to play in the majors. And you have such a long period of time of club control at a very cheap rate on them. You have all that stuff in baseball to where you don't need to spend big to have big results. And you can spend big and have really bad results. Football, a little bit harder, because players get to the end of their rookie deals quicker, and the draft is much shallower. I don't think it would work the way that it works in baseball. All right, I'll see you guys later. Let me know what you think about all this down below, because this is pretty fascinating, and ramifications could be huge. See you guys later. Go Hawks.